Mike Smithson here with 7 Adelaide's afternoon news. And making news this hour, breaking now, a young woman crushed to death by a falling tree in North Adelaide. A teen arrested over a frightening daylight attack on a woman north of the city. 10 stores ransacked in an early morning crime spree. Is it the work of the same gang? Royal reunion. Prince Harry arrives in the UK to be at the King's side after his shock cancer diagnosis. Happy days, Fonzie's in town. He's brought all his charm as he chats to 7 News. And positive outlook, why Rory Sloane's refusing to call time on his footy career.
Live from Adelaide, 7 News starts now.
Good afternoon. First to breaking news on a tragic freak accident in North Adelaide where a young woman's been crushed to death by a falling tree. The victim was sitting under a massive gum tree at the Adelaide Uni soccer grounds when part of the trunk came crashing down. Emergency crews were called to the area on War Memorial Drive, known as Park 12, around 2:30.
We arrived in a matter of minutes, expecting that we were going to have to swing into some emergency first aid pretty quickly, but unfortunately there was not a lot we could do.
Arborists have been called in to secure the area while authorities begin their investigation into the tragedy. And we'll have more on this sad developing story in our main news hour at 6. A 14-year-old boy has been arrested accused of sexually assaulting a woman after dragging her from a street at Para Vista. Security video from Monday night shows the teen follow his alleged victim on Neville Avenue. Police say he asked her for directions before the pair walked towards a nearby reserve, and it's there the indecent assault allegedly took place. The teen's been granted police bail to face the youth court in April. Adelaide's youth crime wave has escalated with 10 businesses at 3 shopping centres targeted within a few destructive hours. Many had cash stolen and are now having to cough up for repairs and extra security. Peter Caldecott reports.
4 businesses were broken into here at the Highland Village at Greenwith, one of 3 shopping centres hit overnight. After pulling up in a white hatchback, 2 thieves kick the St George's Bakehouse doors, then pick up a dog bowl and try to smash their way in. After breaking through the glass, they've jumped the counter to rip out a cash drawer, stealing hundreds of dollars.
A lot of damage, yeah. They took our whole till, ripped it out, yeah, took it with them.
They go from shop to shop, leaving a trail of destruction. CCTV shows them grabbing another cash drawer inside the Golden Saigon Vietnamese restaurant before moving on to chicken gyms and a post office next door.
It's frustration, it's anger, it's kids who aren't doing much at night time, just wandering around the streets and breaking into people's premises. When you're trying to run a business, this is the last thing you want to be faced in the morning with a broken premises.
An hour earlier, 4 stores at the Brickworks shopping centre were targeted. A Chibo cafe, pizza bar, Euros shop and Vietnamese takeaway all had their windows smashed and cash stolen. A 7 News cameraman found a cash drawer and coins they dumped on West Theberton Road and alerted police. It was a similar story just after 5 a.m. at Para Hills, where 2 other stores were hit. They smashed their way into a barber and stole a laptop and cash, then broke into Pizza Express.
I'm pretty angry because, we work so hard, and in this day and age everything's it's hard to make ends meet.
They kicked the chicken shop doors 17 times but still weren't able to get in. Police are investigating if the same gang's responsible for all the crimes, as well as recent robberies at the St Peter's Bakehouse on Monday night and 3 other break-ins on Saturday night. With so many security pictures of the thieves, police hope someone will recognise them and dob them in.
Adelaide Crows champion Rory Sloane has no plans to call time on his career. The former skipper was an onlooker at Crows training this morning after having surgery to repair a detached retina last week. Sloane says he's nearing a return to physical activity.
The plan is to build back up next week. It's normally about, 2 weeks from surgery that you can start building back up into some exercise and stuff. So just some light walking and stretching and beach time for me.
We'll tell you how he plans to avoid a 7th eye injury in our main bulletin at 6. An Adelaide man who assaulted a police officer during an alcohol-fuelled night out in the city has avoided jail. 35-year-old Matthew Priest and his co-accused, notorious anti-vaxxer Raina Cruz, were involved in a heated exchange with officers after being kicked out of the Exeter Hotel in Rundle Street in 2021. Priest pleaded guilty to assault and this morning received a 3-month suspended sentence. Food being collected for the homeless has been destroyed in a suspicious fire at Glenelg. The blaze broke out in Murphy House on High Street next to Our Lady of Victory's Church around 4:30 this morning. The century-old building also housed sewing machines for a local embroidery
We think it was deliberately lit, which is very sad, and I'm sorry that someone felt the need to do that.
Locals are considering a food drive to replace the lost donations. A day after his cancer diagnosis was made public, King Charles has been spotted out in London. His Majesty has also been reunited with his son Prince Harry. It's the first time they've sat down in 16 months, Hugh Whitfield reports.
It was quite a surprise for the crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace here to see the King and Queen being driven past. They were among the first in the world to see the monarch since news of his diagnosis with cancer was revealed. Charles looked upbeat. We are told that he is on good form. He had a smile somewhat on his face, but it followed what was a reunion a long time in the coming. Prince Harry arriving here in London, the Duke of Sussex making the dash on a red-eye flight 11 hours across the Atlantic, touching down at Heathrow and being driven straight to Clarence House for the first meeting between father and son since the coronation in May last year. We're told it lasted around 45 minutes before the King and Queen were driven to Buckingham Palace for their flight to Sandringham. Also today, a bit of an update on the King's health with this update from the British Prime Minister.
Like everyone else, shocked and sad, and just all our thoughts are with him and his family. And thankfully this has been caught early, and now everyone will be wishing him that he gets the treatment that he needs and makes a full recovery.
So a lot of people hanging on to the suggestion that the King's cancer has been caught in its early stages, but a long road ahead in terms of his treatment and no doubt recovery.
Thanks, Hugh. There's been a delicate rescue operation in the Shepherd's Hill Recreation Park. A man fell halfway down a steep hill and lay injured in the area that was incredibly hard for emergency crews to access. Specialist paramedics were dropped at the scene by helicopter and treated the man before he was winched to safety. He was flown to the Flinders Medical Centre with non-life-threatening injuries. And there's been high drama at Lightsview after a tradie fell from scaffolding and landed on the roof of a home. Emergency crews were called to Tarnma Road just after 7 last night. An MFS aerial appliance was brought in to get the man safely down to the ground. His injuries are not life-threatening. Firefighters are at the scene of a turbine blaze at a wind farm in the state's mid-north. Crews have been working to prevent spot fires spreading since before 9 this morning. The blaze was so far, it has burnt about 30 hectares of grassland. Firefighters will remain on the scene until the head of the turbine burns out. The damage bill is estimated to be about $2 million. A man in his 60s is fighting for life after he was run over by a tractor at Swan Reach in a vineyard. He was airlifted to the RAH in a critical condition following the accident. The property on Stott Road just before 7:30 last night. Police and SafeWork SA are investigating. A blistering report into price gouging has found Australians are being overcharged by big corporations who have exploited a lack of competition to push up prices. Chief reporter Chris Reason has more.
Good afternoon. No surprises in just how scathing Professor Alan Fells is in his report, taking a swipe at the supermarkets, banks, aviation and energy industries, accusing them of greed, profit pushing and corporate gouging. The former ACCC Commissioner released his report in a National Press Club address today. He'd been tasked by Australia's peak union body, the ACTU, to investigate price gouging, trying to determine how much of our record inflation levels were actually genuine and how much was simply profiteering. His 80-page wage report pulls no punches. The impact of inflation has been immense, it reports, with many consumers overcharged continuously. Dishonourable mentions for the energy industry, early childhood and care sectors, even the NDIS, but particular focus on the supermarket duopoly of Coles and Woolies. There were more than twice as many submissions on supermarkets than any other category.
Our inquiry was flooded with submissions and concerns about supermarket prices. My conclusion is that Australians are paying prices that are too high too often.
Now, the report goes on to recommend an immediate government investigation into, quote, exploitative business pricing. Also, legislation making it illegal to overcharge, stronger competition laws and a new pricing watchdog. He also wants payments for whistleblowers to dob in dodgy business, like in the US, with the report noting that right now, extreme price gouging isn't even illegal in Australia. Back to you.
Thanks, Chris. The state government's pulled a Nick Xenophon-style stunt to demonstrate the improvement in ambulance response times. Today, it displayed more than 2,000 cardboard figures at Botanic Park, representing the extra patients sent an ambulance on time in January compared with 2 years ago.
Pick a month. What you see is that this government has been turning around the ambulance service in a dramatic way.
But compared with December, last month's priority 1 call-outs went backwards. And crews were particularly quick to respond to a call for help this morning at Eastwood. One of their colleagues needed assistance after having a medical episode at the SA Ambulance headquarters on Greenhill Road. The man was taken to hospital to be checked over. Election campaigns in SA are in for an overhaul, with candidates to be banned from putting up posters on public roads. The change is expected to be introduced in time for next month's by-election in Dunstan. Andrea Nicholas has more.
It'll be a new look for the parade when Dunstan voters head to the polls in a few weeks, with corflutes to be banned from public roads. Legislation introduced by opposition leader David Spears, who's campaigned for years to ban the single-use plastic posters, passed the lower house this morning. It'll have the numbers to fly through the upper house too.
They generate tons of single-use plastic pollution every electoral cycle, and their time has come.
The move quickly prompted a trip down memory lane on social media from senior politicians. But in Norwood today, there were mixed feelings about not being able to see their candidates' faces plastered along local streets.
I'd rather have them on the stove poles to see who's there.
There's ways and means that you can put something up, cardboard.
They could just put it online.
We get information in our letterbox, so it doesn't really worry us.
The opposition's questioning the timing of Labor's sudden support for the ban just weeks out from the by-election, saying it might not want to remind voters about its record on ramping.
I think that there are constituents within South Australia, including the seat of Dunstan, that do want to see the end of single-use plastics occurring unnecessarily.
Candidates and supporters will still be allowed to put up posters on private land. The Speaker's set to announce the date for the Dunstan by-election tomorrow afternoon.
Plans for a merger involving SA's biggest company have been knocked on the head. Oil and gas producer Santos had been in talks with Woodside Energy. If they had joined forces, the company would have been worth $80 billion with its headquarters in Perth. But Santos says not enough benefits were identified for the merger to go ahead. The state government has welcomed the news. A new law that would make it illegal for bosses to call workers after hours has largely won support in the Senate. The government is right now discussing changes to industrial relations laws.
What we're simply saying is that someone who's not being paid 24 hours a day shouldn't be penalised if they're not online and available 24 hours a day.
It's expected there would be a long list of exceptions to this law, like for on-call employees if there's an emergency or if you're paid to work within different time zones. Hey, it's happy days. For Adelaide fans, the 70s sitcom, yes, Fonzie's touchdown this afternoon, his message to Adelaide fans. That's next on 7 News. Can't wait for that. Also ahead, the state's MP baby news, why she's going it alone. A court rules Donald Trump is not above the law. And South Australian Swifties on notice ahead of the pop star's blockbuster tour Down Under. There's been a shock pregnancy announcement at State Parliament, with a Labor MP revealing she's chosen to become a single mum. Jane Stinson says she hopes it'll show other women you can still have a fairy tale ending without Mr. Right. She spoke exclusively to Elspeth Hussey.
When the summer break ended and Parliament resumed, one MP had an almighty surprise for her colleagues. Jane Stinson has managed to keep her baby news under wraps for so long, she's now due in just a few weeks.
Well, I'm very, very excited to be expecting a little baby boy in March. It's been quite the surprise around Parliament, and but I've really felt the love.
The Labor MP, who's in her 40s, has made the decision to become a mother on her own, using a donor.
In the past, I certainly thought, oh, I would never do that. I would never have a baby by myself. But I suppose things change in your life and you make certain decisions. And yeah, I'm very happy with my decision.
She had a baby shower with friends over the weekend, while back at Parliament there's been no shortage of advice and hand-me-downs. Liberal MP Ashton Hearn's also expecting a baby, due in May, while the Premier and Health Minister have both welcomed new additions to their families.
We're committed to population growth in a sustainable way. Look, I'm really happy for Jane. I think Jane will be an outstanding mother.
And thanks to 2 recent law changes, Ms Stinson will become the first woman to breastfeed in South Australian Parliament and to access a new 20-week leave entitlement for MP mothers. Her message to other single women:
if life doesn't quite work out the way you might have hoped, if you don't find Mr. Right by the time the biological clock stops ticking, then at least these options are available to women. I'm absolutely still open to love. I hope that happens for me one day. But I suppose in the near term, it'll be a different kind of love.
Ms Stinson says all sides of politics have come out in support of her. In fact, a baby shower being held here at Parliament tomorrow has been organised not by a Labor MP, but a Liberal.
Congratulations, Jane. A court's ruled Donald Trump will not be granted presidential immunity from criminal prosecution as he faces charges over the 2020 election. US Bureau Chief David Woodward explains.
Today's ruling has essentially undermined what Donald Trump thought was his most powerful legal defence here, that he could not be prosecuted for his attempts to overturn the 2020 election result because he was president at the time and enjoyed presidential immunity. Well, the Federal Appeals Court could not have been clearer in today's judgment. A unanimous 57-page ruling finding that for the purpose of this criminal case, the former President Trump has become Citizen Trump, with all of the defences of any other criminal defendant, but any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against this prosecution.
They've been after President Trump for partisan political purposes. I think that's obvious, and we call it lawfare, and I think there's no other way to describe it.
A blistering finding that's earned a blistering response from the Trump camp today. A president of the United States must have full immunity in order to properly function and do what has to be done for the good of our country. Donald Trump will appeal this ruling and has until Monday to do so. And while his legal arguments do keep on failing, ultimately the former president is achieving his goal of delaying this trial. It had been set down to start in March. Its date now up in the air. All good news for Trump, who wants it pushed beyond this year's election, where polling has him in a close tussle with President Biden.
Well, Adelaide's become a little cooler this afternoon with the arrival in town of the Fonz. Legendary actor Henry Winkler, who starred in Happy Days, is here for a show at Her Majesty's tonight.
I had a dream when I was 7 in my apartment in New York City, and here I am in Adelaide.
In the news at 6, Henry tells us how he doesn't actually ride a motorbike and what it's like working on Barry, so don't miss more on our exclusive interview. Sports coming up with Ralph Mouth now.
Good of him to stop to say "ay."
Well, no, I've already done that. That one's wearing a bit thin. Hey, Josh, sorry, you're not Ralph Mouth at all. Hey, Josh, a proud moment for a power star.
Yeah, one of the great stories in football is Sam Powell-Pepper. He's opened up on what it was like to be added to the Port Adelaide leadership group. And another Crows star missing in training, while Josh Rochelle was a no-show at today's session. Starting to add up for the Crows down there at West Lakes. We'll have that coming up in sport.
Good on you, Josh. Australian concert venues are bracing for chaos ahead of Taylor Swift's sold-out shows. Next, why South Australian Swifties are on notice. Also ahead, a major development in the search for the mum who vanished while jogging on Sunday. A mother's found guilty over her child's school shooting rampage, and Hollywood Down Under, why our biggest stars are returning home. There's been a development in the search for a missing Ballarat mother, with police setting up then dismantling a crime scene just a few hundred metres from her home. As Ainsley Kosh reports, authorities have found undisclosed items in scrubland.
Police identified several items of interest in bushland here about 500 metres from the home of Ballarat East woman Samantha Murphy. But after questioning her husband and examining the scene, they realised those items are not linked to the Ballarat East woman. She was last seen running towards Yankee Flat Road in Ballarat East near her Eureka Street home around 7 a.m. on Sunday morning, and no one has seen her since. That sparked a 4-day hunt. The SES, police and locals have all been searching for her, hoping she will return home safe. We spoke with some locals a short time ago.
Well, I'm a mum of 3, so yeah, I just really like her to be home with her 3 kids.
My heart goes to the kids, goes to the husband, and I just pray that she's out there somewhere safe, that please, we want you home.
Now, in what's been a day of twists and turns, police have expanded their search zone to the nearby Mount Helen area to the east of Geelong Road. Her family says her disappearance is extremely out of character. Mrs. Murphy was last seen wearing black leggings and a maroon or brown singlet. Police are urging anyone who has seen her or may see her to urgently come forward.
At least 11 people have died after an explosion at a fireworks factory in central India. A tower of flames and smoke could be seen billowing into the sky. The ferocity of the explosion was felt in villages more than 15 kilometres away. 3 people have since been arrested, including the manager, who was sentenced to 10 years jail in 2021 after another blast that killed 2 workers. The mother of a school shooter who killed 4 people in Michigan in 2021 has been found guilty of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Prosecutors argued that Jennifer Crumley was somewhat responsible for the shooting, as she bought to her son a gun and ignored warning signs of violence. This is the moment she received the verdict.
As to involuntary manslaughter regarding Hannah St. Juliana, we find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
This marks the first time in US history that a parent of a child who committed a mass shooting has been charged. Ms. Crumley faces up to 15 years in prison for each offence. Authorities are urging ticketless Taylor Swift fans to avoid gathering near the concert site when she performs in Melbourne, or prepare to face the consequences. Melina Saras has the details.
Taylor Swift fans without a ticket are being warned to stay away from the MCG. There are concerns that thousands of fans could gather here in Yarra Park in what has been dubbed Taylor-gating. Tailgate parties are popular right across the US before sporting games, but it's become a growing trend for Taylor Swift fans who missed out on tickets to set up camp in car parks outside concert venues. The MCC has issued a stern warning saying there will be no activations in Yarra Park or screens showing the concert live. There's also no consumption of alcohol allowed. Marquees, tents and infrastructure are banned, and so are barbecues. There will be a large police presence to enforce that message.
Arrangements are being put in place to ensure that for people who are going to the concert can move in and out of the MCG in a safe way, but also too for those who may be around the venue to ensure that that is managed in an appropriately safe way.
This comes as Victoria Police warns fans about ticketing scams. The Cybercrime Squad has received at least 250 reports of ticketing scams for the Eras Tour alone since June, and the total amount lost in those scams is more than $260,000.
Time for a quick check of the weather now with Casey, who joins us from a sunny Henley Square. Casey, it's another windy afternoon along the coast.
Mike, it's so windy that a strong wind warning is in place across metro waters at the moment. We are quite sheltered up here, though, on the balcony of Henley, a relatively new restaurant and bar, and that's because it is north-facing. Down on the beach, though, a strong southwesterly sea breeze is set to whip up gusts of up to 50 k's an hour this afternoon. There is still a few people around the water. The gusty conditions clearly not phasing them, even for this group of beach cricketers, but it is still relatively warm under the sunshine. As for what's ahead, we've got more days like this on the way. Dry, sunny and strong afternoon winds. I'll be back with a closer look at the forecast shortly.
Thanks, Case. Star spotting down under after the break. The Hollywood superstars hitting the red carpet for the Aussie Oscars. And known for their art, but not like this, the Beatles painting that just made a cool million.
How to lose weight and live longer.
The diet craze backed by health experts with scientifically proven results.
Plus, save $20 a month on your phone plan for the same amount of data. How to make the change instantly and save. Start with Sunrise tomorrow morning on 7 and 7 Plus.
Right now.
Now let's check in with Rosanna. What's coming up at 6?
Thank you very much, Smitho. Coming up tonight, we'll have the very latest developments on a horror freak accident in North Adelaide, where a young woman's been crushed to death by a falling tree. The victim was sitting under a massive gum at the Adelaide Uni soccer grounds when tragedy struck. Also, a worrying smash and grab crime trend. We had 10 stores robbed across the city overnight as young thieves went on a destructive rampage. At 6, hear the owners' frustration and anger. And on a much brighter note, happy days as the Fonz lands in Adelaide. Our exclusive with Henry Winkler on what he's doing here and why SA has been on the legendary actor's radar since he was a little boy. Long time now. All that and more at 6.
Loved Happy Days.
Yeah, it was good. I was on the reruns though, of course.
Oh, you were much younger, of course. There's a bit of a pinky Tuscadero about you today, if I may say so. You've done that for Henry's visit. Thanks, Rosie. Now let's get a check of your finance. The Aussie share market has broken a 2-day losing streak. Here's Craig James from CommSec.
Good afternoon. Yes, that's right. Over the last 2 days, the Aussie share market lost around 1.5%, retreating from record highs. Today, the market followed the positive lead for the US to be back in the winner's circle. The benchmark ASX 200 index finished higher by 34 points, or 0.5%, with the broader All Ordinaries index up by 42 points, or again around about 0.5%. Today, 7 of the 11 industry sectors were firmer, with only energy, telecom and consumer discretionary basically in the negative column. Amongst the losers was Santos, down 5.8% after merger talks with Woodside Energy were concluded. Shares in National Australia Bank fell 0.2% after its chief executive officer announced his retirement. In economic data, the price of used cars rose by 0.2% in January, according to Datium Insights, but used cars are still 7% cheaper than a year ago. And the Aussie dollar is a touch firmer against major currencies and is trading near 65.3 US cents.
The stage is set for the film industry to take over the glitter strip, with the Gold Coast hosting the annual Actor Awards. As Sam Payne reports, Aussie Hollywood royalty will hit that city tonight, taking to the red carpet.
Crews are getting to work here at Hotter, setting up for the Film Industry Awards, which can be compared to Australia's version of the Oscars. And the star power will be here. From tomorrow, the Gold Coast will host Hollywood superstars like Margot Robbie, Cate Blanchett, Russell Crowe and Rebel Wilson.
Over the last couple of years, we've seen so many international and domestic films and television shows being made here on the Gold Coast. So having the actors here for the next 3 years, it really just casts a spotlight to how much the Gold Coast and Southeast Queensland is becoming the hub for the Australian film industry.
There will be 2 nights of industry awards, but a broader festival will run for 4 days with guest speakers and workshops across the coast.
Which has over 90 events. So there's something for the kids, something for filmmakers, there's something for people. For example, we have Trent Dalton talking about Boy Swallows Universe, the novel and the TV show.
It's the first time the Gold Coast has hosted this event, a sign of the city's growing presence in the film industry. It will all kick off tonight with a preview of new Australian film Land of the Bad, starring Liam and Luke Hemsworth and Russell Crowe.
The Beatles have made yet another $1 million on a piece of art, a painting crafted by John, Paul, George and Ringo during their 66 World Tour has sold at a New York auction for $2.5 million. The band worked on the painting for 2 days, sitting at a table at the Tokyo Hilton in between concerts.
Still can't buy me love.
Good one, Josh. Now, injuries at the Crows.
You didn't like that?
No, I did like it. I did. I just didn't have anything else to say.
Yeah, Josh Shelley is the latest. They're starting to add up down there. We'll tell you why, Smitho. Also coming up, why Sam Powell-Pepper is tipping another Powerball to have a special season. And the redback, Ricky Ponting, thinks is made for Test cricket. Hello again. Port Adelaide star Sam Powell-Pepper says his introduction to the club's leadership group is one of the proudest moments of his career. Often leading by his actions, the forward's elevation continues a remarkable turnaround for a player whose career was in the balance just a few years ago.
Growing up, you know, you never really thought this could be an option, but I've had a lot of support and a lot of help along the way, but, you know, I've done a lot of hard work myself and couldn't be prouder as well.
Powell-Pepper is tipping fellow Bull Jason Horne-Francis to have a season to be proud of too.
He's just gonna be a superstar of the game. The way he trains out there, I think he's going to do some special things this year.
Horne-Francis missed training today with illness and a sore back, but is expected to be okay. Young gun Joshua Shelley missed Crows training today with a corked thigh, joining injured teammates Jordan Butts, Wayne Millerer, Harry Schomburg and Jake Saligo on the sidelines. But Ned McHenry was playing down a growing list of pre-season casualties.
Is it an injury cross? We had a few people not training at the moment. I think, yeah, availability is not too bad. We've had a bit of match sim. It's been great to get in that mix and start competing against each other and do some contest, and I think the boys are loving it, so it's been really good.
Rochelle trained on Monday with his left thigh strapped and is expected to resume later in the week. Rory Sloane made a surprise appearance a week after having emergency eye surgery. His return to footy is still unclear.
He just walked in and he was happy, had a big smile on his face. I think it's been pretty tough over the last few days, but yeah, Sloaney, mate. Not much knocks him around, that's for sure.
Meanwhile, superstar Carlton forward Charlie Curnow has been given more leadership responsibility, elevated to Blues vice-captain alongside Sam Walsh and Jacob Wiedering.
It's a massive honour. I'm super lucky to be standing alongside of Cripper, Wieders and Walshy. Can't wait to learn off them.
Meanwhile, the Bulldogs are expecting draftee Riley Sanders to debut in round 1.
His first session, he's come in and straight in the midfield, and I reckon he would have had about 20 touches in about 15 minutes. So, yeah, he's just got so much power. He's a good user of the footy.
Let's go to cricket, and after starring in his second international match, Aussie cricket legend Ricky Ponting believes dashing Redbacks batsman Jake Fraser-McGurk can take his aggressive approach into Test cricket.
I do, yeah, absolutely, just because of the talent that he's got. And we've seen it with other players in the past, you know, even like a Shahid Afridi, someone like that came on the stage as a ultra-talented ball-striking 17-year-old that could bowl leg spin, and before you know it, he's probably played 100 Test matches. When you've got that sort of talent, you need to be exposed to cricket at the highest level to work it out, and I think Jake can do that, yeah. So I'm definitely backing him one day to play Test cricket.
Big raps. South Aussie speedster Spencer Johnson has been added to the T20 squad for the 3-match series against the Windies, which starts in Hobart on Friday night. Rain has stopped play in the second women's one-dayer between Australia and South Africa at North Sydney Oval. Sent into bat, the visitors are 4 for 136 in the 26 over. Belinda Clark medalist Ash Gardner has 2 wickets. Matilda's coach Tony Gustafsson has recalled a 35-year-old veteran to fill the enormous void left by injured captain Sam Kerr. After a 6-year absence from the national team, Canberra United captain Michelle Heyman is back in the Aussie squad for this month's Olympic qualifiers against Uzbekistan.
And for myself to get this call up was just, it's changed my life. I feel like a kid again, and I just can't wait to be back with the team.
Chloe Lagazzo is the other surprise inclusion after missing out on last year's World Cup. The first leg is in Tashkent on February 24, with the return leg at Melbourne's Marvel Stadium 4 days later. Well, despite a Touch-up from Tasmania on the weekend, the 36ers remain in finals contention. Cellar dwellers for most of the season, the Sixers can still climb into the top 6, but must win their final 2 games.
I've never seen it this close, this wild, from basically 3rd all the way down, now probably 4th down to 10th. And so, look, everyone's in the same situation, kind of. Brisbane are in the exact same situation as us. They need a win.
Adelaide play the 6th place Bullets in Brisbane on Friday night. And it's been a special day for Ethan Ewing at the Bunzai Pipeline. He defeated 51-year-old icon Kelly Slater and fellow Aussie Liam O'Brien to advance to the Pipe Pro quarterfinals. Callum Robson charged into the round of 16 with the wave of the day.
Backdoor barrel, and it is a big one. The spit comes out, and down comes out.
But that's as far as he went, going down to the local superstar, dual world champion John Florence. Defending champion Jack Robinson's title defence ended in the round of 32. Smitho, more on Sloane coming up at 6. He may have to wear goggles, the Mason Cox style, to save his career. So,
well, let's hope his eyesight is okay. That's the main thing. Thanks for that, Josh. This summer sunshine is set to stick around over the coming days. Casey will join us with all the details right after the break.
Street brawl at Henley Beach descended into road rage horror.
7 News doesn't just bring you the news.
Chilling new details about the murder at Rosewater.
Know your suburb.
Second biggest cocaine bust in South Australian history.
Know Adelaide. Know the news on 7 News.
Good afternoon, Dorian Tassado from the Beaumont Tiles Traffic Centre. Got residual delays in Ashford following a crash on South Road near the hospital. In Colonel Eye Gardens, we got urgent electrical works on Goodwood Road near Windsor Avenue. Speed and lane restrictions in place affecting outbound. Check your speed, Trimmer Parade, Seaton. Tiles up to 60% off. Vanities, basins and toilets up to 50% off. Only at Beaumont's Clearance Centre. Final demo sale at Richmond while stocks last. And that's the latest Adelaide traffic. Enjoy your afternoon. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks for that, Dorian. Time for the weather now with Casey, who joins us again from Henley Square. In case not exactly beach weather down there.
Mike, these gorgeous blue skies and sunshine are almost a little deceiving. It is still relatively warm, but the gusty southwesterly winds means it's not great conditions to be by the water, with a strong wind warning currently in place. It is whipping up plenty of whitecaps, certainly not ideal for an afternoon swim, and this sea breeze again has kept a bit of a cap on temperatures. The city today reaching a top of 26 a short time ago. That's a few degrees below average for this time of year. The overnight low dipped to 13 and it is still about 26 degrees now. Elsewhere around the country, Perth is the hottest capital, 36 degrees there. Chance for a shower later for Sydney. Hobart just 19 degrees currently. On the charts, a high pressure system has become settled in the Bight, and that's extending a ridge over waters to our south, again keeping us in a stable southeasterly airstream, and that means more sunny, dry and windy conditions across SA. Around the state tomorrow, and there'll be barely a cloud in sight. A sunny top of 35 for Cooper Pedy and Roxby Downs, and once again windy conditions about areas around the north and west of the Spencer Gulf, especially for Port Augusta and Whyalla. A sunny 32 degrees for Port Pirie, 33 for Renmark, 31 for Clare and Kadina, 30 for Nuriutpa, and if there is any cloud around, it'll be about the eastern ranges in the morning. A top of 28 for Murray Bridge, 23 for Port Lincoln, 22 for Victor Harbour, cloud clearing, and 25 for Mount Gambier. And strong winds are forecast for both the Spencer Gulf and Gulf St Vincent. For the city, down to a low of 14, then heading for a sunny top of 29 with winds to pick up again from the middle of the day, up to 30 degrees for Elizabeth and 28 for Nollunga. Then in some good news for those hanging out for some beach weather, Mike, where there is some warmer temperatures and slightly less windy conditions on the way, especially over the weekend.
You've done it again. Thanks, Case. And that's all from 7 Adelaide's afternoon news team. Rosanna and Will return with our next bulletin at 6 o'clock. I'll see you again on the weekend. But from me, it's bye for now.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus and with 7news.com.au. You'll know the news now.